So we should talk about how this piece came about and sort of its odd birth story, odd origin story.
We had contacted each other on Facebook? Is that it?
Yes.
He said, "Oh, we have this wonderful soprano. It was a great classical soprano and the queen of gospel, quote unquote." And when you said that, I said, "I know immediately. I know what I got to write." It went.
And I could hear the passion that you had, and I could tell I appreciated the research you had done on this very powerful figure. And so like I said, I was honored to be a part and couldn't wait to get the music, and we got it, signed and delivered with, every part of the recording to make it easy for us to learn it. And it was just, just an awesome work, and I say definitely inspired by God. And
it really has to be a collaboration. And this is the best sort of collaboration for me as a composer, when I feel like I'm not just writing something, here, play this. It's the idea, the concept behind it was collaborative.
I'm curious, how long ago did the concept come to you, do you think? Or was there an episode that inspired or some reading you did or something about Sojourner Truth that sort of triggered the idea or put it in your system?
I don't remember exactly. I came across her, reading some history of 19th century America, and the history of the Civil War, the abolition movement, slavery. And when I ran across her story, because when I grew up, that was not part of education in Memphis. I had to learn later. And when I read about her story, I said, what an inspirational story. What a character she must have been. She was born at the end of the 1700s, apparently, nobody knows exactly, I think in upstate New York. She was born into slavery because at that time, the New York and the Northeast, slavery was still a part of the culture. She was born into a Dutch family. Her owner was Dutch, and her first language was Dutch, which astonished me even more because she became such a powerful orator in English, but which she learned probably as a teenager or so. New York State abolished slavery, and she was freed, but not before her children had been sold off. She was later, I think, reunited with all of them. As it says in the music, when I left the house of bondage, I wanted nothing of Egypt upon me. So she abandoned her name, Isabella Baumfree, and took the name of Sojourner Truth because she was to travel. She wanted to travel around and speaking the truth to the people about the evil of slavery and speaking in behalf of women's rights and better treatment of prisoners and abolition of the death penalty. This sounds very modern, doesn't it?
It does.
Incredibly ahead of her time.
Parallels, many parallels.
And she was invited to speak at women's rights conventions, or for the first women's rights conventions, I think in Michigan. And she became quite famous. And she was even taken to the White House to meet Abraham Lincoln. And there's a
And being a sign unto
Like I said, I mentioned earlier, your passion for her story is just so natural in your writing, you know, and your love for her. I mean, you can, you know, and that says so much, speaks volumes for you as a composer, because, you know, your heart has to be in it, and, you know, and by you're not being African American and still being able to tell the story, for that to touch you in such a way, you know, that helps to heal the nation and heal the land, because, you know, we have to heal the land, and we can't do it one-sided. It has, all of us have to come together to do that.
That's right, because yes, it is an African American story, but it's also an American story. And most importantly, it's a human story.
That's right. When we performed this at Trinity, a young lady came up to me and she said, you know, I had to be here because of the Ain't I a Woman poem that she knew. Well, you know, her words, Sojourner Truth's words. And I looked down at her foot, and what she had tattooed on her foot was Ain't I a Woman.
Wow. I'm like, again, I keep saying honored, but I really am. I feel very blessed to be a part of this project. As do I.
And now that we're recording the piece, I mean, we've performed it, I think 3 times. But recording it and recording it under your conducting, some of the timing things that are happening, it's the dramatic aspect of a cantata. There's some magic coming out of it that.
To sing this piece to the best of my ability is, you know, my part in honoring her and helping her to get, and speaking for her since she's no longer with us.
And when
she was questioned. She was speaking in public, and some guy said, "Oh, you couldn't possibly be. No woman could get up there and talk like that. You must be a man in a dress." And that prompted her to say, "Well, ain't I a woman?" And then she proceeds to tell about her experiences as a woman and as a former slave. And it starts out kind of gentle, kind of feminine, softer, and then as her anger grows, and she talks about her days as a slave, forced to work hard, and then abused and beaten for it, and then having her children taken away from her. And this totally resonated, of course, with things that are going on in the world today. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking. The ensemble has different functions and different characters. You guys have characters that you share. You stay at Sojourner, and with her different emotions and the different philosophical ideas that she spoke about. But you guys in the ensemble, sometimes you're a Civil War band, and drums and bugles, and sometimes you're kind of a street band. Actually, I wrote the last part of it first, or at least her hymn tune, as it were, her gospel tune. Where will you be when eternity begins, with all your guilt and all your sins? And from that, created the pitch material that's actually in the entire piece. So even though the character of that is very different and it's more gospel sounding, you hear pre-echoes of it all through the first four movements.
And that's unifies the piece. Which just gets back to what cantatas have been for centuries.
Yeah.
So,
A Bach cantata usually ends with the chorale tune, the Bach chorale tune.
yeah.
So in the sense, this kind of does that. So it's a little Bach in there.
Yeah.
Where will you be when eternity begins? For all your gifts and all of your fears, God will take care of those things. But for the Master, there's only text painting, it's there. You set it up, the war in the second movement, the lining up of the soldiers, her, being like the captain, and you can hear it, it's all in the music.
Yeah.
And this piece has this accessibility in the historical connections and in the social relevance. You have people like the young lady with the tattoo of Ain't I a Woman, who maybe never goes to hear modern music, could relate powerfully to the piece.